of Africa.
I want to make sure that our service members can get their job done, but that in the process of getting their job done, what we have isn't destroyed.
On deployment now, the mission for this group of San Diego ships heading to the Middle East and the Horn of Africa.
I want to make sure that our service members can get their job done, but that in the process of getting their job done, what we have isn't destroyed.
Saving songbirds, the scientists and soldiers who are teaming up to save these tiny creatures.
I mean, we have an entire ferret-loving community that I was unaware of.
Making furry critters feel welcome. The San Diego city that will become a sanctuary for ferrets. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. In a move sure to alarm environmentalists, Californians may see new drill rigs. The Trump administration has directed more public lands to be open for oil and natural gas drilling. The order calls for federal oil and gas leases to be auctioned off several times a year in California and other states with reserves. Environmental fights have prevented new onshore drilling in California for years. Environmental groups say they're ready to fight this new order.
We're very prepared. We're using lawyers, we're using laws, we're doing whatever we can to stop what the Trump administration is trying to do. There are public demonstrations, there are people attending meetings in volumes that they never have before to get the word out and get their opinions presented to members of Congress.
The order also calls for efforts to speed up a backlog of drilling applications. Effective today, California will add a weed killer made by Monsanto to its list of chemicals known to cause cancer. KPBS science reporter David Wagner says the decision is at odds with other government agencies, but in line with some local policies.
California's Environmental Protection Agency links hundreds of chemicals with cancer. And the newest addition to the list is glyphosate, found in the commonly used weed killer Roundup. Other regulators, including the federal EPA, have determined that glyphosate is not linked with cancer. But one city in San Diego County has already enacted a ban on it. Encinitas Park Operations Manager Annette Saul says glyphosate is no longer sprayed on the city's public lands due to a 2015 City Council decision.
There's other herbicides that we're able to use, and we also use manual labor, so, just weed removal manually.
California's decision will not result in a statewide ban, but next year, products containing glyphosate will be required to carry a warning label. David Wagner, KPBS News.
A package of 3 bills aimed at lowering the cost of prescription drugs has cleared a key committee in the state Senate. KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg says these and other measures that address drug pricing appear to have a lot of support.
The 3 just approved bills are among a variety of measures that approach the issue in different ways. For example, one bill seeks to get cost savings by allowing state and local agencies to combine their drug purchasing. Another measure would prohibit drug makers from offering discount coupons on name brands if a lower-cost generic drug was available. Anthony Wright directs the nonprofit Health Access California.
If we're not going to be getting any relief at the federal level from high prescription drug prices, then it's up to the California legislature to step up and move these common sense solutions at the state level.
1 in 4 people who take prescription drugs say they have trouble affording them. The leading drug industry trade group, Pharma, says more than a third of the list price of medicine is rebated to insurance companies and the government. Kenny Goldberg, KPBS News.
The America Amphibious Ready Group headed out on another deployment today. The USS America, the USS San Diego, and the USS Pearl Harbor are sailing to the Middle East, the Pacific, and the Horn of Africa. Crews will conduct crisis response and security operations during the deployment. Today, families gave Marines and sailors a warm send-off from Naval Base San Diego.
I don't want to be sad. I don't want to be weak. But I mean, it's hard. We're gonna miss them.
The deployment is expected to last up to 7 months. The changes in immigration policy have pastors in Texas changing the way they do church. They're offering services by conference call. AP reporter John Moan says this helps church members who are living in the country illegally.
Please enter your access code followed by the pound or hash sign.
Pastor Julio Barquero ministers to anyone who wants to pray.
Buenas noches. Buenas noches.
Buenas noches, pastor.
Even those he can't see.
De camarón, eso quiere decir mucho. Aleluya.
Several times a week he holds church via conference call for immigrants living in the country illegally. The pastor also makes spiritual house calls, tending to the faithful at home. The number of those visits is on the rise, following harsh immigration talk from President Trump and the passage of a tough sanctuary city law in Texas, empowering local police to ask people about their immigration status.
¿Le tienen miedo a la policía?
They are afraid of the police, so it's not just a matter of going to church. It's also scary to go shopping at certain times.
These Houston homeowners allowed the AP inside during a recent visit. They did not want their faces shown because they feared deportation. An estimated 11 million people live in the U.S. without authorization, 1.5 million in Texas alone. Communities with large immigrant populations are reporting lower church attendance on Sundays and a steeper drop-off in other church programs.
All of a sudden, the attendance dropped.
Pastor Luz Maria Cotopena attends to the Spanish-speaking congregation at Living Word Church in Houston.
They have family, jobs. Many of them are homeowners. Some of them are business owners.
She worries other church members aren't aware or don't care about the plight of these immigrants.
Here we follow what Jesus said, not what politicians want to do.
The Houston-Galveston Catholic Diocese says home visits to undocumented immigrants are on the rise. In an April interview with the Associated Press, Cardinal Daniel DiNardo said immigration is a top priority for the Catholic clergy.
We have kids in our Catholic schools, and they're coming in, and they're crying during the day. And why is that? They're not sure whether mommy and daddy are going to be home at night when they get back from school.
A spokesman for Texas Governor Greg Abbott says the tough immigration laws square with Abbott's Christian values, quote, to protect all innocent lives. Pastor Barquero is not so sure.
Isaiah chapter 10, verse 1 and 2 says, "Woe to those who dictate laws against my people, orphans, needy, widows."
Barquero says he'll follow his heart and continue to tend to those living in the shadows in person or by phone. John Moan, Associated Press, Houston.
Following up on an iNewsSource report about the high rate of lost, stolen, or damaged iPads at Sweetwater Union High School District. This week, Sweetwater says it sold nearly all of its 8,800 outdated devices. The data provided didn't show any of the iPads had been sold. Instead, many were classified as out of inventory or damaged. A Sweetwater spokesman could not say when the sales began. He said the district is gathering that information and will provide it when it's ready. iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. San Diego State University students and staff raised a rainbow flag today to mark the beginning of Pride Week in San Diego. The event was the first public appearance of Sally Roush since taking the helm as president of SDSU this week. Those in attendance celebrated the university's inclusive campus, but said there will be more work to do under the new leadership.
Reach out. I know in the past there's been some marches on campus up to the former president's office, and he's not available. So maybe some more being a part of the community, being humble, being open to speaking with us.
I'm very dedicated to the concept of free speech, open dialogue, but I'm also very dedicated to the concept of civility.
The nonprofit Campus Pride calls SDSU an LGBTQ-friendly campus. Last year, it added 20 gender-neutral bathrooms. The university will also participate in the Pride Parade on the 15th. San Diego's former district attorney, Bonnie Dummanis, says goodbye to a crowd in downtown after serving more than 14 years. The 65-year-old DA walked out of the County Hall of Justice as jazz music played in the background. But this probably won't be the last time you'll see her. She may run for the Board of Supervisors. This after her interim's appointment sparked controversy earlier this month. San Diego Gas and Electric officials say they're working to ensure this summer's blaze doesn't strain the power grid. SDG&E officials say they've secured enough supplies to power the region this summer and say ahead of the heat up, improvements were made to ensure the grid stability. Officials encourage people to help by adjusting thermostats to 78 degrees. San Diego is bracing for another heat wave. Brittany Boyer shows us how hot it will get in tonight's forecast.
As we head into this weekend, the dangerous heat continues. We've had record-breaking heat over the last couple of days here in Southern California. We will, however, get some relief. Before we get there, we will have to talk about that dangerous heat and also the threat of some thunderstorms. Here's a look at our weather alerts. They continue through 9 o'clock Saturday evening here. So we still have to get through Saturday. Heat advisories and all the orange colors here. So Alpine, Ramona, staying hot and steamy. You get even farther inland out toward the desert, Borrego Springs. We are looking at temperatures above 110 degrees out there tomorrow. So it's going to be another scorcher. Make sure you're limiting your time outdoors. You're checking on the elderly. You're not leaving kids or pets in cars. Definitely some dangerous heat here. As we get into our satellite image, you can see a couple of specks out there. We are seeing a little bit of moisture, and that is some thunderstorm activity. That will be the case over the mountains and also the desert, at least over the next couple of days. And dry lightning could be an issue out there. 68 degrees, your overnight low, a touch humid as we get into tonight and early Saturday. I'll look at your forecast. 66 in Ramona tonight. Mountain Laguna could see some showers and storms. 68 degrees there. Borrego Springs, it's going to be a warm night tonight with temperatures in the mid to upper 80s. So heading into this weekend, the heat will continue, highs as much as 10 to 15 degrees above normal. Here's a look at some of those temperatures. Make sure you're using the sunscreen if you're going to be outdoors. Borrego Springs, 113. You'll notice out here we could see some showers and storms out toward Mount Laguna as well. Temperatures tomorrow in the upper 80s. Here's your extended forecast. Cooling off into next week. Looks like the marine layer is back starting on Monday. So we'll start with some low clouds and then clouds will break for some sunshine in the afternoon. Inland, hot on Saturday, cooling off on Sunday. We're back into the mid-80s throughout the middle of the week, and out in the mountains we'll track some showers and storms over the next couple of days. Temperatures cooling off in the desert as well, but staying in the triple digits. For KPBS, I'm Brittany Boyer.
La Mesa is being asked to become a sanctuary city for ferrets. KPBS's Tom Fudge has a story.
When La Mesa City Council member Christine Alicio received a packet of documents from the legalized ferret community, she never imagined the follow-up.
Tons of emails, more emails about the idea of making La Mesa a sanctuary city for ferrets or legalizing ferrets than we did when we just raised our trash rate.
Ferrets are small and furry, and they make good pets, so say ferret owners. But they are defined as wild animals by California law and technically illegal to keep as pets. Pat Wright, a ferret owner who lives in La Mesa, admits that making La Mesa a ferret sanctuary city would be symbolic. Hugely symbolic.
That someone actually sat down and listened to us and heard us and came up with the same conclusion that any sane person would. This is a domestic animal. The state has no reason to ban them.
These are little furry animals that people have that use a litter box and play with toys.
Ultimately, ferret owners like Wright, whose ferrets are named Tiger, Bailey, and Jethro, will need a legislative ally to change state law. They came close in 2004 when a bill reached the desk of Governor Schwarzenegger. He vetoed it, even though he once co-starred with a ferret in Kindergarten Cop. Some state officials have defended existing law, saying ferrets could breed in the wild and upset California's ecology. Wright rejects that.
Not one case of that, not one feral ferret ever documented in the United States.
And ferrets are legal in every state but Hawaii and California. But a sanctuary in La Mesa? Alicia says she wants to try to do something.
I mean, we have an entire ferret-loving community that I was unaware of. And, you know, that's what you do when you're elected. You represent the interests of your constituents.
Tom Fudge, KPBS News.
Ferret activists have scheduled a meeting with La Mesa city officials a week from tomorrow. Humans and wildlife are finding ways to live together near Tacoma, Washington. In tonight's SciTech report, producer Katie Campbell shows us soldiers working with biologists to save endangered songbirds.
Yeah, so the nest is just right here.
A baby streaked horned lark.
They look like grumpy little old men. They never peep at you when you hold them, but it's just the look that does it.
Only about 2,000 are left on the planet.
Holding these little creatures in my hand is nerve-wracking. My fingers still shake, and then putting a silver band on with this pair of banding pliers.
The colored bands will help identify this lark once it leaves the nest.
That guy is going to be known as yellow over orange, white over silver, blue.
Adrian Wolf is trying to save these native Northwest songbirds from going extinct.
And there he goes. Good luck, buddy. You can do it.
But there's danger nearby. The prairies these larks rely on happen to be within the Northwest's largest military base. At Joint Base Lewis McChord in western Washington, thousands are learning what it takes to be soldiers.
Training's important. Training it increases our readiness, and readiness is our number one priority, all across our army.
Lieutenant Colonel J.D. Williams commands a battalion of 600.
Fire when ready!
It's his job to get them ready for deployment.
You can't just show up to remote locations and expect to know what you're doing. So you absolutely have to come out into environments like here at JBLM and utilize land and train and perfect your craft as a soldier.
One of the most difficult skills, Williams says, is learning to fire heavy artillery. It takes a battery of 9 people working in careful coordination, with a remote crew spotting the target and relaying coordinates.
What does an artillery battalion need? Absolutely, we need land. When we shoot our projectile, it'll go 6 miles away. I need space so I can shoot something and I can observe it and I can test that system and make it better and make those soldiers better artillerymen.
Like the soldiers, the larks also need hundreds of open acres. Once they leave the nest, it's harder for biologists to watch over them.
They're pretty small, smaller than a robin, bigger than a warbler. They're really cute. They have, the males especially have these little horns, feathers that look like horns. They don't actually have horns. Oh, there he is. It's in the scope right now. Oh, there's another one. The way that they can hide in just plain sight is amazing. I mean, even those of us that have been doing it a long time and very experienced and looking for these animals and know that they're out there, still, they are very difficult to find.
Streaked horned larks used to be found from British Columbia to southern Oregon, but their range has contracted to a few thousand acres.
Well, they're not doing very well. They are in decline. Historical counts where they used to be common and abundant, then they're not now. They're really rare.
It's part of Paul Stuckey's job to figure out how to train soldiers without killing an endangered species.
We're not looking to trade one off versus the other. I want to make sure that our service members can get their job done, but that in the process of getting their job done, what we have isn't destroyed.
To accomplish this, the base has hired biologists to do conservation work here. Biologists gather GPS data on nest locations and track young birds when they're most vulnerable.
And this will help me remember how many nestlings, how many eggs, and what stage they're all at. So we are working to identify the locations of the nests, and we provide that location information in real time back to the site managers.
Base officials use this data to adjust training missions to accommodate the lark. They think of the nest locations like hospitals or friendly military units, things that soldiers wouldn't want to destroy on a real-life battlefield.
1, 2, 3, lift! Stay clear!
They give us a graphic, and so it's a military overlay, and we can go plot it on our map and say, stay out or avoid, or make sure you stay here, and don't even think about coming over here. Okay, that's great. We're not going there.
It's estimated 0 casualties over.
They hold us accountable for the land that we use, and they ensure that we are environmentally sensitive and that we didn't destroy the land or pollute the environment or harm any species or any endangered or critical species. And so I think it's exceptional land management and safe and considerate.
The sprawling military base has actually helped the lark by defending its prairie from development.
These open training lands provide the habitat because the military is here. Without the military, these would probably already be lost.
Prairies were once the dominant landscape in this area. But in the decades since the base was established in 1917, the land surrounding the base was taken over by agriculture and then suburban sprawl. Nearly all that remains of the region's prairie is on the base. It's become one of the rarest types of landscapes in the United States.
This is the irony. These military bases are the last refuges of fantastic habitat that's left really anywhere around the country.
It may seem impossible that larks would be able to coexist with artillery-firing soldiers, helicopters, guns, and bombs, but living in such a dangerous place may in fact be what has protected the streaked-horned lark.
A Broadway star from Hamilton and a San Diego pop artist are at the top of the charts this weekend. KPBS Arts calendar editor Nina Guerin has more in tonight's Weekend Preview.
Hello and happy Friday. We start this weekend with a trip back to the 1930s. Signet Theater is staging Animal Crackers, a musical comedy based on the Marx Brothers' hit Broadway show and classic film. It's a zany show that revolves around a missing painting, so expect lots of antics, lots of puns, and even some audience participation. Next, we get a visit from one of the most beautiful voices on Broadway, Leslie Odom Jr.
No one really knows how the game is played.
He's best known for playing Aaron Burr in the musical Hamilton. But in the year since he's left that show, he's been performing jazz hits and Broadway standards around the country. The Tony-winning actor will be here for 2 nights with the San Diego Symphony. There will be Hamilton songs, and there will be fireworks. Finally, if you're a fan of local music, make sure to check out The Life of Brian.
I'm doing it to do it, not doing it to make it.
Longtime San Diego musician Brian Karsig is the founding member of popular bands Convoy, Nervous Records, and Louis XIV. He's put together a concert that will feature music from all those bands. Karsig is very prolific, and he has a lot of musician friends, so be prepared for special guests. For KPBS Arts, this is Nina Guerin.
Stay up to date on the San Diego arts scene with the KPBS Arts Calendar and our arts newsletter. Sign up at kpbs.org/newsletter. Well, summer is in full swing with Spidey and apes arriving in town. KPBS Arts reporter Beth Accomando has some tips about what to see.
Tonight, I'm co-hosting a screening of the original 1933 King Kong as part of Film Geek San Diego's famous First series at the Museum of Photographic Arts. The film broke ground for its special effects, most notably the stop-motion animation used to create Kong, the 8th wonder of the world. It's the perfect film to see as War for the Planet of the Apes is poised to open and showcase what state-of-the-art CGI can do now more than 8 decades later. Both films are dazzling displays of craft, technology, and storytelling. Seeing them close together allows audiences to appreciate the evolution of special effects and apes on screen, beginning with the genius of Willis O'Brien's innovation with Kong, and continuing with Andy Serkis's amazing performance as the CGI-enhanced Caesar in the third chapter of the new Planet of the Apes franchise.
What's up, guys?
Also swinging into town is your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. This is the third Spider-Man franchise to launch in 15 years.
Underoos!
Tom Holland made his debut as Spidey in Captain America: Civil War.
Hey, everyone.
Now he gets his own film, Spider-Man: Homecoming. Holland is a great Spidey, and the film delivers a fun ride, although it's a bit too long and Michael Keaton's Vulture villain is sadly underused. But it's nice to have a Spider-Man who finally looks like a teenager. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition.